My name is Mina Campbell, and I'm from Northwest River, Labrador.
Why don't you tell us about how long you've lived here and where we are, Northwest River,
Yeah,
and its relationship to Churchill River?
I was born here in Northwest River, and I've always lived here. And my grandparents, I was raised by my grandparents, so my grandfather had a connection to the Grand River, and so did a lot of other of my family members. So I remember hearing my uncles and people telling stories about they were trappers on Grand River, so there was lots of stories told to me, good and bad, about the river.
So you come from a family of trappers?
Yep, yep.
And presumably that's a way of life that's going to be changed forever with the Muskrat Falls Hydroelectric Dam. That's not going to be continuing, I guess.
No, and it's already changed a lot. Like there's not a lot of trappers. There's weekend trappers, people now, but there's not a lot of people that trap on Churchill River, Grand River anymore. Anyway.
So your family settled here how long ago? Like how long have they been here?
Well, my ancestors, I guess, were from the Riglet area, and Mulligan, which is about a settlement which is about 40 kilometers from here, maybe 40 or 50 kilometers. And they lived there in the winter time and trapped. And then in the summertime they moved to Riglet for salmon fishing.
I see.
So that was, so I don't know, since... That's right, yeah. So my family's always been here.
Yeah. They trapped in the winter, and then, so what would be what was the pattern of the life, so in the wintertime they would head out into the country traveling?
Yeah.
And in the summertime they would return here?
Yeah, to Mulligan. So this is my grandparents and beyond that. So yeah, in the summertime they would be in Snookskov, which is close to Riglet, and salmon fish. So that would be from maybe June to September, around that. And then in September they would move up the bay or up Lake Melville to Mulligan in September, October, and stay there for the winter. And my grandfather would then trap in the Mulligan area, but he would also trap in Wilson Lake area, which is on Churchill River. Well, it's a river that branches off of Grand River.
So you said that this, not too many people trap anymore. So this is a modern community, and you're modern people, and you have, you live like the rest of us. So what kinds of ways are you still connected to the old ways? I mean, what is your relationship to the traditions of your family, and how are those? Kept alive? we still hunt and fish and harvest from the land, like berries and some medicines, and hunting and fishing mainly. And how does that actually work? I mean, how much of your food is actually drawn from the
for us,
land?
There's quite a lot of food, and we have different food in different seasons. So right now, because it's in February, we're hunting partridge, white partridge and spruce partridge, and snaring rabbits and catching trout and tomcods through the ice. So we'll have that to eat now. But we also still have salmon that I vacuum packed from the summer that I'll be having for supper today. So I still eat, quite a bit of wild meat and fish, but it's a lot by the season. So in the spring, come April now, it'll be seals, and we'll eat quite a bit of seal, especially starting off in the spring.
And the seal harvesting is particularly going to be affected by the hydroelectric project.
Yes, it will be, because where seals are up in the food chain, where the methylmercury is going to be highest in the seals from the food chain, and then we eat the seals. That's the saddest for me. That's the saddest part, the seals, how the seals are going to be affected. I'm not as concerned about the salmon because they migrate, or whatever it's called. They come up and go up in the rivers, so they're not out in the lake all year round like the seals are, and trout as well. But seals is the biggest concern for me when it comes to the methylmercury.
So the other day we were talking, you were describing how the seal was practiced today, and what a community activity it was. It was really very interesting. So could you tell us a little more about that? How the community gets together and goes out on the ice, and what that process is about.
Yeah. Well, even now people are starting to talk about it. So probably in February people start talking about what's going to be like in April. are we going to get a seal hunt this year? Because it's a big deal for us if we do or don't. Partly because we like eating seal meat, and we like the meat, and other part it's because it's a family and communal experience for us. And I'll just talk about my family, but other families in the community do similar and the same as what we do. So my brothers and sisters and I will all go down to our cabins when we find out what the conditions are like. Like the snow needs to be melted off the ice before we seal hunt, because we have to find the holes, the breathing holes for the seals. And so so we'll all go down, and then we might hunt together and we might not, but we'll always meet up together, and it's exciting. We have our nieces with us, and we don't have nephews old enough yet to hunt, but our 3 nieces will be with us, and they'll hunt as well, and they've already hunted and harvested seals, and they're 13 now, and for 2 years now they've been already hunting seals in the spring.
Do they like it?
They do like it. They love it. It's exciting for them already.
Yeah.
And so so what we do is when the season is, when we find out the conditions are good for seal hunting, we all get together and go, and we find the seals, because you can find, I don't even know how we find the seals. We find rough places on the ice where we think there's a house, because the seals have a bunch of holes, and they have one area where there's a lot of holes close together where they've stayed all winter long. And so that's called a house. It's their house for the winter. So when we find the house, and we have a person got to stand up by each hole, so there's only one seal. Once in a while you might get 2 young seals. So it's young seals, just seals born this year. So there's most always just one, or there may be 2. But you might have 8 or 10 holes to cover. So you need a group of people, and so we all take a hole each, and wait for a seal to come up to breathe. And so the ice is still fairly thick, so we know a seal is coming up when the water starts moving, because the force from the seal coming up the hole is making the water move. So that's when you really get, it's very, I don't know, exciting, but you get an adrenaline rush. Like you're really, really, I don't know what you call it. We call it the jitters. You get the jitters. And while we're hunting, we have to stay still. Our feet can't move while we're standing by the hole, because the seals will hear. And they, just one little movement, and the seal will flip over and go back down, and you lost your chance. So there's only one seal for all these holes. So there's lots of things that are taught to new seal hunters, young people or older people that aren't used to hunting. Is one of the main things is you have to have patience, and it takes a lot of patience, because you have to stand still for at least 20 minutes, because a young seal can hold his breath for that long. So you stay still, and like for 11 and 13-year-olds, sometimes not all that easy to stand in one position and not move their feet for 20 minutes. So they're taught a lot about patience, and they're also taught a lot about luck is one thing, and disappointment, because there's one seal for all these holes, and not everybody's going to get a seal. But still, my niece Amy, who did an interview one time, she said to the guy that was interviewing, I was excited for my cousin to get a seal. So even though she was disappointed that she didn't get it, she was still excited, and it's still exciting, and it's a good feeling when somebody else gets a seal as well.
And once you get the seal, what next? What do you do with the seal? You eat the seal,
Yep.
Of course, every bit of it.
Yep, we eat the seal. So right away we pretty well clean the seal, and and more than likely that evening, if not that evening, next day, first thing we'll do is have a big fry of seal liver, which is something that we're already hungry for.
That's the best part.
It is the best part, yeah. And then we'll eat seal probably every couple of days for a little while. Yeah, and I'll keep the skins. Not many people keep skins anymore, but I'll keep skins if it's not shot up or darted up.
You make products out of them.
Yeah.
And why is that a dying practice? I mean, the seal hunt is apparently still exciting for folks, but preserving the skins is not so common, you say.
No, it's not. A lot of people don't know how and aren't really all that interested in learning. It's a lot of work, and it's, I wouldn't call it dirty work, I suppose, but yeah, you have to get your hands dirty. You know, you're dealing with fat and smells and skins and blood and stuff, so. But my nieces do every spring, whether they want to or not. They'll come down while I clean seal skins, and they'll give it a little try, and they don't mind it.
Well, yeah. If somebody doesn't teach them, this will be lost.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll ever do it, though. Like, I don't know if it's something that they'll do, but they'll know how.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Will this continue on Lake Melville when the dam is completed? The idea would be, of course, that the seal is going to be contaminated with high levels of methyl mercury, so it won't be suitable for consumption. I guess that's the worst fear, right? It is.
So if we, most people, like I said, don't keep the skins, they eat this. Everybody takes the meat, but if the meat is no good to take, then what's going to be the point of us going seal hunting?
So you are expecting that the seal hunt will probably come to an end sometime around 2020?
I don't know when, but I say it's going to happen sometime, yeah.
And at that point, there's going to be a whole way of life, a cultural practice.
It's very sad to even think about it. Even think about us not even talking about going seal hunting. Like I said, we're talking about it now. We won't even be talking about it, leave alone leading up to when it comes time for a seal hunt. I can't imagine not going out for a seal hunt in the spring because we can't eat the meat. There's been times we couldn't go hunting because of ice conditions, but we know next year it's going to be different, so we'll be able to go. But to think that we're never going to be able to go seal hunting again has a big impact on my culture and my family's culture and lifestyle.
And this is not really something that has been addressed in the discussions around the project.
Well, the only thing that I heard about is that if the fish and seals aren't fit for consumption, we'll be compensated. But all they're thinking about is, like, I don't know how they're going to compensate me for the loss of my culture.
Yeah.
It's not about food only. I mean, I can easily be compensated for food, yes.
Yes.
But, for all this communal activities that go on and the teachings that are taught to the young people as we're hunting, about respecting the animals, about respect in general, and about sharing food. And it's really the only hunt and the only time that our family will get together to do it. We all salmon fish, we all trout fish, we do other hunting, but we all do it separately. But this is one where we all come together at some point during the seal hunt and do it together. And like I said, not only my family, other families do it in community as well. Same thing. They're teaching young people. And so there's a lot taught while they're hunting. That's not going to be taught anymore.
Yeah. So the project's almost finished. Muskrat Falls is scheduled to go online, I think, next year. So this is obviously going to affect everybody. It already has affected everybody. And there's been a long process of consultation with the communities that will be affected. What was your experience of the consultation process?
Well, I did the presentation to the panel that was here, I think it was in 2011. And I went to a few other presentations. But, it's all fine and dandy when you're at the meeting and they're saying, this is safe, or this is going to be done, that's going to be done. But when you don't see any action to the words in the following years, it's not very good.
What kinds of concerns did you bring to them? Like, what were you particularly worried about?
Well, to the panel, it was a number of things. Methylmercury was one, and I didn't know a lot about it. I know more about it now than I did then, but it concerned me back then. And about, there's a lot of people that use the Grand River for many different reasons. There was a lot of tragedies on that river. There's a lot of historical and heritage sites on that river that should be remembered somehow. And they should be marked in some way. And because it was a whole way of life, before.
How do you remember a site if it's going to be underwater?
Well, you can. Well, but still, you could document.
Mm-hmm.
You could document now, and then I mean we have museums and things here that maybe could do research on the places where because the whole river was trapped by all different trappers, and they had trapping lines, and one line started here, one man's line, and then the next one started. So the whole way there was trappers' tilts, and there was unwritten laws about that they had amongst themselves that could be useful in life today for people to learn about. So that if there was research done and placed in museums or universities or them days or somewhere, that at least it could be remembered. So it doesn't actually have to be a marker right at that spot, but somehow that it be documented and remembered and taught to the people.
And there's no effort to do that?
Not as far as I don't know anything that's being done to do that.
And what about development? I mean, obviously this is a huge project and it's brought a certain amount of prosperity. There's been various deals that have been made with various peoples, and community centers have been funded and jobs have been created. So what do you think, what's your reflection on the economic effects of the hydroelectric project on your community and the communities around here?
Yeah, well, a few people have jobs. They have good jobs, good paying jobs. But, that's only going to be for another, couple of years maybe. And then I don't know what's going to happen. Because people now are used to this, big income that they have. And purchase houses and this and that, and in a couple of years' time, they're not going to have that income. And I think development is okay. Like I think overall, I'm not against development, but I'm against development that has negative impacts and not done the best way that it could possibly be done without harming the environment and the people. And I see people that have got jobs there. Jobs and money create social issues, and it creates, like I talked about in my presentation, like the medical issues, the medical facilities that we have here. We have one hospital in Happy Valley-Goose Bay that, people are out in the hallways on beds because it's overflowing with people, because you got an extra 15 or 2,000 people in Muskrat Falls that are helping, and people that are living in Goose Bay coming to work in Muskrat Falls. So there's a lot more people going to the hospital because there's a lot more people here, and so it's something that we, how do I say this? It's a service that is not as accessible to us because there's more people here now that's using it.
I see.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Another thing that really bothers me, I'm not sure, I guess I don't know if it's economics or not, but it's this big development is happening here, right on our doorstep, and we still have Northern Labrador and Southern Labrador that are running on diesel generators. So they're not benefiting at all from the power. And I don't know if it would be transmission lines to put there, or if Nalcor or the government could subsidize or use other sources of power to help those areas of Labrador out.
Because it would be kind of outrageous that power, that huge excess of power that's going to be produced will not benefit the people who are most affected by the project.
And it's not benefiting the people.
Yeah.
Really the only benefits that I see us getting are a few jobs here and there, and there's benefits and negativity that comes with that as well, like I just mentioned. But besides that, I'm not sure what we're getting out of it. I don't know what else. I don't know if we're getting anything else out of it besides a lot of damage to the river and the land.
How do you think the whole thing could have been done better?
God, I think in the beginning, from what I understand, they were going to clear cut, and I think that would have prevented some of the issues about methylmercury, and so I think they could still clear cut. I know they could still clear cut, but it would cost a lot of money, so they probably won't. That's one thing.
Which is shocking, since there was actually a commitment from the Premier that would be done. That commitment was made on television.
You know, we just heard it, or I remember seeing it on the news when our MHA, Perry Trimper, got on talking about how if the fish and seals aren't, if we're not, you know, if they're going to be so poisoned that we're not going to be able to eat them, then we'll be compensated.
Do you think if the clear cut went ahead, I mean, if they cleared the reservoir according to the Harvard studies standards, do you think that the food source here in like Melville would be still, I mean, is your understanding it would still be usable?
I think it would be. From what I know, as far as I know, there was always some concern about it, but it's not as much of a concern. I mean, it's more of a concern now that they're not going to clear cut.
Mm-hmm. And what about now, the one thing that people are talking about as still a live issue, that is something that could go in a number of different ways, is the question of the North Spur. What are your views about that?
And I'm not all that knowledgeable about it, so I read here and there. It's scary to think of if it breaks, you know, and the flooding that'll happen. I mean, the water is going to come right out here. Is it going to come up to my house here? Mud Lake is probably going to be underwater. Lower Valley is probably going to be underwater. And will I be underwater here? So not only that, but everything else is going to be underwater as well. All the more trees and stuff. So it does concern me. I really want to stress about, we were talking about the seals, and the food is not only about food, and the life values and life lessons and life skills that young people and other people learn while we're on the seal hunt. Like about patience, respect, about sharing, about disappointment, but about excitement, and just how you get along with people, whether it's through disappointment or excitement for them. And that's something that I know my nieces really learn a lot about. And then we talk them down if they're disappointed, but this is how hunting works. You don't always get a seal every time. But they're excited, and you have to be excited for your cousin or whoever else got the seal. Like, that's a big part of it. And then we share the food. And when we come back, my nieces, the seals they killed, probably the whole things are given away, shared out, because they're first seal. Probably maybe one small meal kept for themselves, just so they can say they can have a meal. But all these sorts of things that are learned while they're hunting.
You mentioned you have family members working in Muskrat Falls. One thing that came out over the past 2 days is about how another one of the consequences of this project is ripping families apart or causing discordances within families and ambiguous feelings about the project. Did you feel any of that?
I didn't feel any of it, but I saw some of it. Like I see, and especially when, you know, the protests and things are going on, because people are mad because the gates are barred off and they can't get home or they can't get in, and then the people that are not from here are being flown in and flown out, and yeah, there's lots. And I mean, I shouldn't really talk about stuff that I hear because I don't know if it's true or not. Mm-hmm. But there's lots of things that I hear that's not good about it.
Do you think the quality of people's diet will be greatly affected?
It will be.
Not being able to eat country food.
Yeah, it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you given any thought to kinds of ways in which it will be, the kind of food that is available in the supermarket? Would you say it is as nutritious and fulfilling as the kind of food?
No, it's not. And I mean, the thing, like I said, we hunt, and our diet goes by the season. Mm-hmm. So when spring comes, I'm hungry for seal meat. Mm-hmm. And it's physical. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm hungry for seal meat. And then when July comes, I'm hungry for salmon. Mm-hmm. And it's something within me that happens. That mm-hmm. Yeah. And we do the same thing with salmon. Mm-hmm. Our first salmon we get, we cut it up and we share it out. Mm-hmm. Because nobody else got salmon. And I know people are hungry for salmon.
And so now you will be dependent upon whatever is available in the supermarket?
Yeah, we will, yeah. And not say I don't eat food that comes from a supermarket, I do. Mm-hmm. But I eat a lot, and a lot of people eat a lot of fish and wild meat. Mm-hmm. And it's not only seals, like we hunt partridge and rabbit and now moose because we can't get caribou. But I mean, our diet is we eat fish at least a couple times a week, and we probably eat partridges a couple times a week because we have them. Kids who are, 13 and 9, they have a whole life to live ahead of them. They're not going to want to contaminate themselves and have a risk of the effects that come from methylmercury poisoning. Not only that it kills you, but how sick it makes you. But I really don't see that I can't see myself fully stopping eating seal or fish. Like I said, I may not eat as much, but I don't see myself stopping eating, which means I won't stop hunting either. So, but I mean, that's just my generation. Next one, my nieces now, they're not going to be able to pass all this on to their children. Right. Way better. And that's my hat, and I have it like that because I wear a pig cap inside of it, so now it makes it look like I got a hole.